We are back with another rundown style video, starting with some Browns news on the pure football side of things. The Browns have released offensive tackle Joe Haeg. They signed another offensive tackle in his place in Hunter Thetford, and they've also signed wide receiver Rashawn Henry. So they are currently at the maximum roster spot for the pre 53 man final roster with 90 with those two signings. And that was what the focus of the Browns rundown was going to be initially. But then the news has broke that there are Browns players that are just getting robbed left and right at this point. It was Demetric Felton had his SUV stolen, although outside of that detail of us knowing that he had a vehicle stolen, not much detail is known outside of that. However, there was a report that came out pretty recently that Greg Newsome and Perrion Winfrey were robbed early Monday morning. You could also call it Sunday night. Jake Trotter revealing the names of those two. They were initially redacted from the police report, but credit to Jake Trotter for getting those names out to the public. They were walking back to Greg Newsome's truck early in the morning when 6 masked men robbed them at gunpoint, stealing both their jewelry, and they eventually took off in Newsome's vehicle as well. So that's obviously a terrible situation for all three of the players that have been involved in being victims of a crime recently. I have read some things saying that some of the players are starting to suspect that they might be getting targeted in some sort of crime ring thing, but that isn't an official sentiment among players. No player has, gone out and publicly said that they think they're being targeted or anything. That's just something I've seen floating out there. So I guess take that with a grain of salt. And just because if you see something, somebody says that doesn't mean it's necessarily true, even if it is a solid conclusion that one might jump to. None of the players have come out and said anything like that. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not happening, but again, that is something that is just speculation and rumor at the moment. The very small silver lining in this is that no one got hurt in these instances, so I understand that the situation in general still sucks, but I do think it is important to look at the big picture. Is nobody lost their lives over these incidents. Nobody even suffered any physical injuries. So the best we can hope for right now is that the players who got robbed get their stuff back eventually. I feel like that should be priority number one, is to make them whole on what was stolen from them again. And then hopefully the people who did these acts are caught and they're brought to justice, and they have, they get their just desserts. They get what they deserve. But I feel like priority number one should be try to recover the stolen items, get them back to their rightful owners, and then maybe go and find whoever did these things. And that's a sucky situation that the Browns are in right now. Those players, I'm sure that can't be good when they're trying to focus on training camp, and the NFL season is it's not right around the corner, but it's starting to get up into that time where you want to start focusing. They're in the facility, they're doing off-season workouts. You don't want to have to deal with worrying about whether or not you're gonna get your stuff robbed, or if in the case of these three players getting your stuff back, and that the experience of having something stolen from you, especially with Newsome and Perrion Winfrey getting robbed at gunpoint, that has to be something that sticks with you beyond just the incident. So we know we're hopefully that they come out of this better on the other side, but it is a bad situation that they find themselves in currently. Hopefully it has a good resolution. So now, hard pivot to an update on the Columbus Crew. They have won 2 matches in a row against some admittedly lower tier teams in the MLS in the Colorado Rapids and Charlotte FC. 2 key factors have been Lucas Del Rayon and Cucho Hernandez. They have both been electric in these last 2 games. And I do feel like the Columbus Crew, even though this might not be as good of a team as we've seen in the last couple of years, they're always going to be dangerous in MLS play if those two are going, if those two are firing on all cylinders. Then they have a shot against anyone in MLS if those 2 guys are going to dominate and do their thing and do whatever they do to make the Crew better. I feel like the Crew are always going to be in a good spot if those 2 are playing at the top of their level. So they are now 5th in the East after being out of a playoff spot when I last made my update on them. However, it is a tight race right now in the middle of that Eastern Conference and MLS. They are only separated by 3 points from 9th on the table. So hopefully the Crew can continue this good momentum, but you do start to wonder what happens when they face some tougher opponents, or if Lucas Del Rayon and Cucho Hernandez take a step back, as right now they're playing with their heads are on fire right now. What happens when they cool off a little bit? Will the depth be able to step in and keep the momentum going? And last but not least, we have a Blue Jackets update. They have signed defenseman Jake Christensen to a 1-year, 2-way deal, so they can send him between the NHL and the AHL and pay him differently based on whatever league he's in. He will make minimum salary at the NHL level. However, his AHL pay is a bit higher than usual. You usually see, with these two-way deals, the salary you get in the minor leagues might be in the upper 5 digits. However, his AHL pay is north of $200,000 if he were to play in the AHL for the entire year. So I do feel like that is the organization kind of rewarding him for being a good soldier. The past couple seasons, he's been sent up and down between the NHL and AHL level. It is a little concerning that he wasn't able to establish himself as a consistent defenseman player when the entire team was stricken by injuries. He wasn't quite there, but maybe that was a coaching deployment issue kind of thing, although I wasn't necessarily all that impressed with Christensen's play last season. But the year before, he did seem to strive in a bottom pair role. So maybe the organization does see a future in him. And right now, I do know that the Jackets are, reports are still coming out about the Blue Jackets being involved in a big 3-way trade involving the Flyers and the Kings. And the Blue Jackets will be getting Ivan Provorov with some salary retained from the Kings. But I'm still waiting on reports. As I record this video, I'm still waiting for reports on what the Blue Jackets are giving back in the trade and to whom they are giving that back to. So when the full details of that come out, I will be prepared with a video on that. That is going to be it for this one. Just a little rundown of what's going on in some Ohio sports happenings. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far into the video. I will see you at the next one.